Really excited to get started with practice. This week is the start of practice for all teams at the Division I level. We open up our first game 6 weeks from tomorrow, so we get a nice stretch of time to really get to know each other on the court on a daily basis. We've had 4 hours a week of workouts going back to early June, so we've spent a lot of time on the court, but it hasn't been every day 2+ hours on the court the way it will be moving forward very soon. I'm excited about the group of guys we have. Their chemistry together has been very good, going back to last spring with our returning guys from last year, and then with our 5 new guys coming in, the way that they've jumped on board, the way that they have listened and been receptive to their older teammates. So the next 6 weeks it's all about us consolidating better and better habits so that we can be at a point where the standard that we set is the standard that we reach on a daily basis on the offensive end, on the defensive end, and as teammates. I think our guys have made a lot of growth in those areas, but we haven't played a game since last March. So it's about, again, like I said, consolidating those habits so that we can bring them to bear when they matter most, which is starting November 6th. Questions?
Can anybody shoot on this team?
That's something that is certainly an area that we've been emphasizing, a huge area for growth. Our guys have really worked hard at that in the offseason, Kirk. But as we've talked about many times in the past, it doesn't matter if you can shoot it in upstairs in Cooley when no one's around. It's when you get on that game floor. We've really tried to focus on all the areas that we can control to become a better shooting team, being better at passing the ball. We feel like great passers make great shooters, and there's a negative way to put that too. Bad passers make bad shooters. Being ready to shoot, our footwork, our discipline of actually shooting the ball the right way. We've got several guys on our team that we want to see take a jump in terms of their shooting percentage from last year. And to me, that's the best way to become a better shooting team, is not necessarily having one guy that makes all the shots, although I'd love to have a guy that makes 153s, but probably more likely doing it by committee. And, Matt Coleman shooting the ball a little bit better, and Kerwin Roach continuing on his trajectory of shooting the ball a little bit better, Dylan shooting the ball a little bit better, and then all of a sudden that adds up if you have a good group of guys that can do that to you being a better shooting team. But there's no doubt that's a huge emphasis going into this season.
Shaka, we've seen all this stuff. Andrews was on campus and the improvement. What's his status, both big picture and then basketball-wise right now?
Well, Andrew came back to school to start the semester like everyone else in late August. He had been around a little bit in the summer, but primarily had been focused on obviously his treatment and doing everything he needed to do in Houston. So it's been great having him back. It's terrific seeing him, back on the court and doing what he loves to do. He's back full time as a student, which is obviously great as well. He's participated in our workouts. There's some times where he gets pulled out. The doctor, team doctor, and the trainers, they want to make sure that we're able to build back his strength before he gets thrown out there 100% full time all the time. As you know, he did lose considerable weight, as part of his treatment process, and he's gained some of it back. I mean, he's been in the weight room. He's doing a great job with our strength coach. So we're really just kind of taking it day by day in terms of how he does and how he proceeds. He's like any other player. He wants to be out there. He wants to be playing. But we really want to make sure that, again, his strength is built back because Andrew's a guy who has high expectations for himself. And if he's out there, he wants to be able to, play like himself. So we're excited about the growth he's making, and obviously there's more to come.
Is it realistic
Uh, he's made progress. I don't want to say for sure where that'll be. I think he would like to do that. But, again, we've got to make sure we do what makes the most sense for him long term and also what makes the most sense for our team. That's the job that I was given that I have to do is to do the right thing for our guys individually, but also, when it comes down to the game, put the 5 guys on the floor that are going to give Texas the best chance to be successful in that moment. And that's always evolving throughout games and from game to game. So we're about to embark on a 6-week stretch of practice going into our first game where we'll learn a lot more about not just Andrew, but all of our guys in terms of where they stand relative to their teammates and relative to what we need to do going into our first game. Then after the first game, it continues to evolve.
Shaka, how would you rate Kerwin's coming along with his knee?
He's a fast healer. I know that might sound funny, but he has a body that a lot of us would love to have. He's just a guy that recovers relatively fast. So he's not all the way back to being full speed, full go, but he's getting closer. He's really, and he likes to kind of be playful in this way, but he's really pushed the envelope with trying to come back and do certain things maybe a little bit quicker than he should. The other day we were out there on the court and he did a backflip. I'm like, come on, man. But he's not playing full go 100% with our guys, at least as of last week and our last workouts. He'll continue to see the doctor, but I think he'll be back out there on the floor full time, I would guess, in a matter of next couple of weeks.
Okay, so you're still tracking him to be ready by the opener?
Yeah, he should be. I mean, he's already back there doing some stuff with our guys, and I think, again, in a matter of weeks, should be back.
And then, you and I have talked about the 4 main guys coming back, but who in your mind is going to be that 3 spot?
It's to be determined. Depends on, who goes out and grabs it. One of the things that we're doing with these guys, just to try to give them the answers to the test, is we provide everyone with a certain set of standards. We have what we call competitive standards, which is things that go into being a competitive, winning basketball player. And then we have things that we call performance standards that are specific to maybe a role on the floor for a specific guy. And they're all things that we can measure. So it's really going to be who steps forward and does the best relative to those standards. And again, all of our perimeter guys, from what I've seen, can come in and contribute to our team. It's just a matter of how much and can they do it on both ends of the floor.
What does point guard you look like for Matt in his sophomore year, and then what does the offense look like with Elijah on the floor?
Matt's continuing to grow as a leader. I think his biggest area for growth is telling guys things that maybe they didn't want to hear. Matt's a guy that is very agreeable. He likes to get along with everyone, but he's come to understand a little bit better this year than he did a year ago, that it's not always about everyone agreeing with you or liking you. It's about saying what needs to be said. So that's still an ongoing process for him. I would say he's about 2/3 of the way there in terms of fully understanding that it's all about how can you affect your teammates and affect them in terms of their behavior, in terms of what they think, in terms of how they feel, their motivation level. He's really made some positive strides in that. Eli has been a good addition to our team. I'm excited about him because he brings a little bit different element. I try to remind him on a regular basis that he needs to be that same guy that came in here with a chip on his shoulder when he first got here. I do not want him to be just an ordinary, player on the team that, is happy to be here. I want him to be a guy with something to prove, and I want that to rub off on his teammates. He's done a really good job so far in our workouts. I see him playing a really big role for us.
Coach, talk about Sims a little bit and his growth as a player. Obviously, he took strides during the season last year. Has he continued that in the offseason, Coach?
His body's really changed. It's interesting. We have these before and after pictures, and I thought he came in with a really good body. I don't know what you guys think, but he looks way different now. I mean, he's only gained about 8 pounds, but in terms of he's 238, 239, and he's really, really strong, and his body looks great. I think the key for Jericho is going to be handling mentally and emotionally all the demands of being one of the best players on the floor. Last year he could be a guy who came in the game and made some plays, and everything he did was really looked at as, wow, this is a young freshman who's contributing, and he's got a bright future. And he still does have a bright future, but what he expects of himself, first and foremost, and then what we expect from him and his teammates expect from him is significantly larger than what it was a year ago. I think if you look at the games when Mo did not play last year because of injury, Jericho really did a good job stepping forward. When I asked him after one of those games why he was so active, why he played so well, he said, because the team needed me. I put my arm around him and said, man, we need you every game. But clearly he understands the need for him and what he can bring to the table this year is significantly higher. He wants that. Jared Allen was here last week and spent some time around our guys. He came to our team workout on Friday, and I asked Jared a very specific question because I thought I knew what he would say. And our bigs were in a group, and I brought Jared over, and I said, Jared, what's the biggest thing you've learned from your 1 year so far in the NBA? And Jared said, you have to be great in the role you have on your team. And so I think that's going to be one of the challenges for Jericho because he is very good at a lot of different things, understanding the 2, 3, 4 key areas to be great in. And he's going to hear them from me every day, but really buying into that and maybe letting go of some of the other things.
Shaka, is there a difference with a team like this as opposed to 2 years ago, Jarrett? He wasn't a for sure one and done, but there was certainly that thought. And then Mo last year. Now, maybe a little more balanced roster going in.
Yeah, that's a great point, Roger, and there definitely is. We don't have a kid that we recruited that was a McDonald's All-American and is thought of in that way. I think those guys did a really good job of handling that, both Jared and Mo. It's a lot to put on a guy, particularly a young, big kid. And I think even at times there were maybe some people in this room that were hard on those guys, but what happened is they really did go like this. And they're going to continue going like this. And I give them a lot of credit for that. But it's still a challenging dynamic because sometimes with one-and-done bigs, they're just not quite ready to be what you need them to be or what you want them to be. And so you just try to get them as close as you possibly can to that. But at the same time, you're trying to organize the rest of your team. You're trying to win the next game. You're trying to get guys like a Jericho Sims better. Sometimes managing the current game is different than managing what you want for your team long term, and you have to strike that balance. But I like the fact that our 4 best players are not freshmen. I told our freshmen, I've been telling them all summer, I invite you to be one of the 4 best players. That'd be great. But right now, I like the fact that the guys that are, if we had a game today, going to play the biggest roles, have at least done some of those things already at the Big 12 level.
As a college basketball coach, it can be kind of
odd determining success because you could be 20-13 and then win 4 games in the NCAA tournament, or you can be 20-13 and lose, or 26-5 and lose in the first round. How do you judge the success of your team at the end of the year when you look back on the court?
It's a great question. I was thinking about that this morning, actually. I'm like a lot of coaches. At the end of the year, there's a stretch of time where you really shouldn't make too many decisions because your mind is in a different place. But in terms of evaluating success, for us, the postseason is so incredibly important in college basketball. You want to advance. You want to play deep in the tournament. Obviously, you got to make the tournament in order to do those things. And then the ending, and this was the case even in 2011 when we went to the Final Four, the ending is so abrupt that it's you don't really know what to do. But for us in our program going into this year, we want to take a significant step. You don't necessarily know some of the twists and turns that are coming your way. Last year at this time, if somebody had said, "Hey, this is going to happen," with one of your guys, and then this may happen, and that, you just don't really know those things. But I'm excited about it. I think we got a chance to take a big step as a team. I think it's important for our guys to reject any type of noise or poison or whatever you want to call it that could come in their mind and disrupt the commitment to the process of what goes into taking that big step. They've been terrific all summer. Like I said, you could feel it starting in the spring with our returning guys that they really had a better bond and connectivity between each other. But the off season's the off season, and in the season we want to take a big jump. We want to win more games. We want to compete to be near or at the top of the Big 12. And so that's how we'll evaluate it. But there's no question we want to do better in those areas.
And then second, where is Courtney Ramey right now? How's his progress coming along, and kind of what do you envision seeing him this year?
He's going to be a really good player. He's got a lot of upside. Right now, he does not like when he's not good at something. And that's a good thing, but he doesn't always handle it very well. So he and I need to spend a lot of time together helping him so that he can understand that, I'm with him and I believe in him even when I'm on him really hard. He's probably the guy that I've coached harder than anyone on our team. He obviously plays a position that it's important that he's in alignment with me. He's going to be a good player. I think he'll probably be one of those guys that early in the year you may see some games and say, he's just okay. And then you may see some games where you're like, wow, this guy's going to be really good. I think as it gets towards January, February, he will hit his stride of consistency, and I think he's someone that will really be able to contribute to winning on our team.
Chuck, I think the stat that the guys talked about was you guys were 8-9 last year in games determined in the last minute or overtime.
Yes.
And Matt is the one who talked a lot about that, at least with me. When you sat down and talked with all these guys for exit interviews or whatever, what did you hear from them about how to change that stat and flip that in y'all's favor?
They're really looking to me for that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Tell us what to do, Coach. The reality is for some of those guys, in some of those games, we're playing 3-4 freshmen and they really didn't know what necessarily to do different other than what we're telling them. I think part of it's confidence, Brian, having an elevated confidence level. What we've talked about, the reason that they regurgitated that to you is because we've jammed that down their throat.
Yeah, exactly.
We one of the things we talked a lot about this summer is just the fact that it's a game of inches. And we showed a lot of video of plays that could have gone this way or could have gone that way, but went this way or went that way, and determine the outcome of a game. And, whether you're at Oklahoma State and you've led the whole game and then they go on a run to come back, but then you get the lead and now you just got to get one rebound. And, I showed the guys, at least to me, a pretty powerful slideshow at the beginning of the summer. And it was just pictures, Brian. It was pictures of, like, the ball is, like, right there for us to grab. And we're up one. And there's 10 seconds left. And, of course, all the guys that are back on our team from last year know that we didn't grab that ball. They got that ball, and they scored. And so, you tend to remember the moments like that didn't go your way. But there were certainly some the other way as well that we can build on and do more and do better. I think it's understanding what goes into winning throughout the game, but then when it comes to winning time, the last 6 minutes of the game, the last 60 seconds of the game, what are the most important things that we need to grab hold of and do? Obviously, the free throw line is one where we need to take a jump. I mean, we're at the line, to your point, to pretty much seal the game in the NCAA tournament with, I think, 20 or so seconds left, and we miss the front end of the one-and-one. Game goes to overtime. We lose in overtime. So those are things that, as a team, we need to do better in order to grab those games, because the schedule we play and the league we play in, it'd be great to just sit there and plan to win by 30. But I don't know that's necessarily realistic for anyone in our conference.
And while I have the microphone here, I just wanted to ask a totally separate topic. Did you help Eric get placed with the Latvian team or wherever it is he ended up?
No, his agent helped him. We helped him kind of along the process when he decided, he was done playing college basketball. Yeah, yeah. We kind of helped him along the process of what to do next, when he decided to leave, but he and his agent took it from there.
Since May, what's the addition of Neil Berry done for the program?
Neil's been great. He's very, very dependable and solid for me as a head coach and for our guys. He's brought a different perspective, just being from another team within our conference. And he's helped me a lot with some of the things we're doing on the offensive end, maybe looking at some of that stuff a little bit differently. And I think the biggest thing for us in terms of taking a jump on the offensive end is just holding ourselves to the standard that we set long after the time it is that we set it. And that's starts with coaches and also players. But he's been really helpful with that.
Shaka, obviously you haven't won an NCAA tournament game yet. What specifically do you feel like you need to do to coach better, and how hot is your seat this year?
I don't sit down. So I think what I need to do is just continue to help our guys grow and develop. We have 3 core values in our program. The first one's relationships. So as a coach, you're never satisfied with the relationships you have with your guys. You always want to enhance those, improve those. The second one is growth. You're never satisfied with exactly where guys are, because, let's face it, during the time these guys are with us, they're only going to go partially towards their full potential. They're going to reach, Mo and Jarrett and those guys, they're going to reach their full potential at 29 years old. So we want to really push these guys and spur them towards continued growth as much and as fast as possible. And then the third one is victory. And, to your point, that's something that we need to do more and better and more often. But to do those things, it's more about the process of what goes into winning. I can sit here with you and we can obsess about winning, but that doesn't win you the game. What wins you the game is stopping the other team from scoring more and yourself putting the ball in the basket more. there's even a process that goes into those things. So my emphasis as a coach has to be on the things that go into success. I'll let you worry about that other stuff. And, I'm just appreciative and grateful every day to be able to work with these guys and help them move towards being better. I really feel like we have a chance, like I said earlier, with this team to have a terrific season. But we have to make that happen. And that starts with us as coaches, and it continues with our guys.
Take a couple more, Chuck, here on the left.
Shaka, kind of piggybacking a little bit on that, but after 3 years now, you've got all these guys are your guys, no inherited guys. You've had 3 years.
One inherited guy.
What?
One inherited
Oh,
guy.
I'm sorry, my bad.
I'm glad we inherited them, but just to correct you.
But from that standpoint, in terms of implementing the culture that you want, the roster that you would want, where are you in that process with this team now after 3 years?
I think our roster is really grown in terms of stability from a couple years ago. I mean, we had a really unique situation in terms of the team we took over being a lot older, and knowing that for a lot of those guys we'd only have them for 1 year. And so what we've tried to do since then is stabilize our roster from the standpoint of just having some guys that are going to be at Texas for a while. But at the same time, trying to bring in some guys that can help Texas be successful sooner rather than later. That's why you recruit the Moes and the Jarretts, because they're not going to be at Texas for a while. But I like, especially these last two classes that we've signed. They've been our kind of guys. Last year's freshman class, 4 of them are back. Obviously, Mo is off to the NBA, but those guys are all a little bit better, a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser. This year's freshman class it's a really, really good group of program guys. I think there's a couple guys in there that have phenomenal upside, but it's going to take those guys some time. We don't have to expect of them what we expected of a Mo or a Jarrett, but they do need to help us. Culturally, you asked about that. I think we've made major progress with the culture of our program. There's a couple people in there that have come and watched us practice, come and watch us work. You guys are welcome to do that. If we want to set that up through Scott. The way that our guys react to coaching, the way that they respond to what we demand of them on the floor is terrific. But it's still about going and doing it in the game, And I tell these guys all the time, in basketball we get up to 40 of these every year. That's the max. And it's really not very many compared to the amount of time that you put into training to be the best you can be in this game. So when we get an opportunity for that ball to go up in the air and play, that's when you want to go after it. So that's on me to help these guys be aggressive and going to do that.
Bob, go ahead.
Who do you think the wow guys are on this team that when you watch practice and you just go,
Wow, guys? Well, if you were coming in the gym and you didn't know anything about our guys, the 2 wow guys, 3 wow guys, I guess Snoop obviously is one of them, but the 2 that I originally thought of just because the combination of size and athleticism, Jericho Sims and Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes has very, very high potential, going to be really good long term. He's extremely light right now, needs to gain strength, gain muscle, but he's close to 7 feet tall, can really, really run, and he's got a big upside. He's a guy who played 6 minutes a game on his high school team as a junior. There's guys sitting here that played more than that. So he's come a long way since then, and he's got a long way that he will continue to grow and move forward in.